She promised to carry out all his instructions exactly as he had ordered, and after he embraced her, he got into his coach and set out on his journey. The neighbors and friends of the young bride did not wait for her invitation, so eager were they to see all the treasures contained in the mansion. They had not ventured to enter it while her husband was at the home, because they had been frightened of his blue beard. Now they began running through all the rooms, closets, and wardrobes, each apartment exceeding the other in beauty and richness. Then they ascended to the storerooms, where they could not admire enough the number and elegance of the tapestries, the beds, the sofas, the cabinets, the stands, tables, and the mirrors in which they could see themselves from head to foot. Some mirrors had frames of glass, and some of gilt metal, more beautiful and magnificent than had ever been seen. They could not desist from extolling and envying the good fortune of their friend, who in the meanwhile was not in the least entertained by the sight of all the treasures, because of her impatience to open the little room on the ground floor. Her curiosity increased to such a degree that, without reflecting how rude it was to leave her company, she ran down a back staircase in such haste that she nearly broke her neck 2 or 3 times. Once at the door of the room, she paused for a moment, recalling her husband's prohibition and thinking that some misfortune might strike her for disobedience. But the temptation was so strong that she could not withstand it. Therefore she took the small key, and with a trembling hand she opened the door of the little room. At first she could discern nothing, the windows being closed, but after a short time she began to perceive that the floor was all covered with clotted blood that reflected the dead bodies of several women suspended from the walls. These were all the wives of Bluebeard, who had cut their throats one after the other. She thought she would die from the fright, and the key to the room, which she had taken from the lock, fell from her hand. After recovering her senses a little, she picked up the key, locked the door again, and went up her chamber to compose herself. Yet she was unsuccessful, because she was so upset. Then she noticed that the key to the room was stained with blood. She wiped it 2 or 3 times, but the blood could not walk off. In vain she washed it, and even scrubbed it with sand and grit, but the blood remained, for the key was enchanted, and there was no way of cleaning it completely. When the blood was washed off one side, it came back on the other. That very evening Bluebeard returned from his journey, and said that he had received letters on the road informing him that the business on which he had set forth had been settled to his advantage. His wife did all she could to persuade him that she was delighted by his speedy return. The next morning he asked her to return his keys. She gave them to him quickly, but her hand trembled so much that he did not have any difficulty in guessing what had occurred. "Why is it," he asked, "that the key to the little room is not with the others?" "I must have left it upstairs on my table," she replied. But bring it to me without fail, and right now," said Bluebeard.